Freedom Radio Hour. Live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Freedom Radio Hour. I'm your host, Adam Cruz, and I'm here with my fantastic co-host right here,
Eddie Nicholas. What up, beautiful people, and welcome to another segment of Freedom Radio Hour 91.6 FM, the heartbeat of Sedan and DWowMusicRadio.com. What up, Mr. Cruz? What is going on in the world of music, news, and, as we said, trends from what?
Around the globe. I cannot tell you, every episode I'm always delighted to see you, but this one, I'm just extra delighted to see you because what I've got for you, you're going to go, oh gosh,
Okay,
really?
Really?
Well, first, let us take a moment to let our listeners and our viewers know that the Freedom Radio Hour is here not only giving you fantastic music, but we're here to be your number one source for music business news and trends from around the globe. All right. So, you know that the biggest problem that you've had, and you've expressed on this show many, many times, when you keep hearing or witnessing that these companies like Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, and all of them are making money hand over fist. They're billions of dollars. One of them, Spotify, is going public, and all these billions of dollars. And your question has always been what?
Oh, where is all this money coming from?
Yes.
All of this, as I call it, cyber money.
Yes. And beyond that, the other question you always ask is when are you going to send that money to the artist?
Yes. How's it going to trickle down?
Well, finally, we were wondering how this goes down. So just to be clear, these decisions in the United States are made through Congress. They're made through various bills that you propose. So I need for you to understand, I wish we had a little drum roll, that the U.S. Copyright, the Royalty Board, they got together and they finally have ruled in the following manner.
What's the matter?
Well, for these streaming outfits like Spotify and Apple and all of them, what they were paying out to music publishers was considered 10.5% of their gross revenue. That's what they were paying out to music publishers.
Okay.
But now the U.S. Copyright Royalty Board has mandated that they are to pay 15.1%. So 5% more of their gross revenues now will automatically be entered into law, and they have to pay that through a blanket mechanical license. Let me give you some background. So what you have is this ability now through streaming outfits where you could hear whatever song you want to hear if you just click through it. Spotify and Tidal and all of them. For that to be possible, Spotify and them have to pay music publishers a mechanical license. That's a fee to use that song in the way that we're listening and enjoying it today. But that figure has always been a huge debate here on this show and around the globe, especially around music publishers, because we want to get closer to a livable wage from these rates, especially when we see the Googles and YouTubes and Spotifys and all of them are making so much money.
Come on now. As artists, we should at least be getting 75 cents on the dollar.
Yes, but now you're going, I'd say this is at least a step in the right direction.
Yes, it is.
So they're going to be paid, now they're required to pay 15.1% of their gross revenues.
But it's still not 50%.
It's
still not 50%. It's still too little.
Okay,
it's still too little, but
listen,
here's
the other thing that you should be aware of. While this is a beautiful step forward, and the Music Publishers Trade Association that's behind this fight is really proud of themselves, and they should be, because they really stepped to Spotify and Apple and said, hey, we noticed how little you're paying. When are you going to pay some more? I kept fighting and fighting and fighting. And so the U.S. Copyright Royalty Board came together and said, you know what, they have a point here. That rate should now be changed, right?
But this has been after years, though.
Yes, it's been after years. But as we keep saying on this show, and I know you're aware of this, these changes don't happen
overnight.
No, they take years,
They take years,
yet decades for things to be examined.
Because the data has to be built to show that these, whether we consider them, I consider them offenses.
Here, this is how this happened. Speaking of offenses, this is how this happened. So this compulsory license that we're talking about, this mechanical license that needs to be paid by Spotify and them happened, and way back in time, in 1909, That's when it actually started. Why?
Oh, give us a history lesson.
Yes, because this company, see, back then the big money maker for music was the piano. So the player piano was the biggest instrument,
and you were correct with pronunciation. Is Aeolian piano?
Yes, Aeolian
Connection, and there you go.
So Aeolian
History,
is the company behind the player piano, and in the sheet music, that was the main moneymaker from this manufacturer, Aeolian. So Aeolian was being crooked, though, because they were making all this money by reproducing the sheet music all around, but not paying the composers that created that music. So in 1909 is when you have the establishment of this compulsory license, in particular so that you could deal with the behavior for companies like Aeolian to not be able to exploit their artists and the composers in this manner. So that's how that blanket license came to sort of save music publishers, because without that it was so willy-nilly and there was no real enforcement. It was very the antitrust enforcement back then was really antiquated.
And you see evidence of that throughout music, during the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, where you're still seeing artists that are still have not being compensated for original works that they did.
And so this becomes a part of the debate about congressional oversight. Some argue in music that there's too much congressional oversight, and so there needs to be more of collectives in music that can dictate its own destiny. But on the other side, to Eddie's inferred point, that without the kind of oversight and protections, you will see more of this Wild West, willy-nilly difference in negotiating tactics, because there isn't a protective blanket over these licenses. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to break down more about streaming. In particular, I thought we spent little time last time on the Spotify lawsuit. I want to break down what's happening with that, especially in light of the Copyright Royalty Board ruling. Let's take a break right now on the Freedom Radio Hour.
91.6 FM. DY Music Radio.
Come back. Singer, songwriter, performer, and host Eddie Nicholas debuts his fantastic new album. Released in conjunction with mixtape sessions and Deck Music imprint, Eddie brings you a 16-track album full of fantastic jams upon jams, perfect for any dance floor. The album includes records like Fall in Love, Goomba, and Groovin'. Check out EddieNicholas.com and TrackSource for his brand new LP.
Freedom Radio Hour. Live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM.
What up, beautiful people, and welcome back. 91.6 FM, DY Music Radio, the heartbeat of Sedan. We are grateful for you to be here, and I'm here with my cohort, the one and only Mr.
Adam Cruz, and you're tuned in to the Freedom Radio Hour, where your number one source for music business news and trends from around the globe. Before we broke, we were talking about the U.S. Copyright Royalty Board, sorry, I got a tongue twister there, and their new ruling around the increased rate that Spotify, Apple Music, and all streaming outfits need to pay to music publishers, which is a good look. Eddie's point is, we want half. That's what we want. We want half. But right now, at least we're getting to a better wage or better rate over time. But this leads us to the very things that are happening around Spotify. You see, Spotify is one of the biggest streaming outfits in the world. So there's a lot of attention around Spotify. Why? Because Spotify is going public. That means they're converting themselves from a privately owned entity to a publicly traded and owned entity. And when that occurs, that process is called an initial public offering, or an IPO. Now, all last year, Spotify's CEO was talking about their valuation, how much they're worth to the world, and they've been increasing that number over time. Eddie and I has always been side-eyeing because we're not always convinced that these numbers reflect the reality of the business's worth.
Inflated.
Yes.
Is the
but
prop. Is
remember,
nice
we were
word.
talking about that that figure is created by not just what it's worth at that time, but it's projected worth over time. And so they add that to the value, and that's what the projected value of this company is. Anyway, so now they're nearing this IPO, this time to become public. Their value, they say, at $19 billion. Yeah. So there's discrepancies here. That's why when we are excited to hear of the Copyright Royalty Board's ruling to increase the rates that Spotify pays to music publishers, we go, because they are worth $19 billion.
That's enough to support a small country.
And you're over here, and at 15.1%, that's not nearly enough for the fact that you're worth that much because you used our music. You see, Spotify, you didn't just do that out on your own. You did that because you used the music to get subscribers, to get ad space, to get time and attention to your company. And now it's worth an alleged $19 billion, and we're supposed to be happy with this 15.1%. It kind of changes the happy feel. I'm grateful for the Copyright Royalty Boards taking all of this into account and making changes. This is considered the biggest the biggest rate increase in U.S. history. So that very well may be the case, but we are still in this area where we're not sure. For example, you should be aware that for that money, that increase of money, for record labels, they get $3.82 for every music publisher's dollar. Let me say that again. For every $3.82 that the record label receives from this increase from Spotify and them, the music publishers, the writers, and the people that make it, they get $1. So when you say 50%, the 15% arguably should be coming from that label. So instead of $3.82 versus $1, should be more like $2 to $1.82. You know, that kind of thing. But this is what we're talking about, right?
But dollars do add up.
Yes, but you
So-
see the discrepancy. So this is why YouTube and the other outfits, when they're screaming about the value gap problem and how much money how little they pay versus to artists versus how much they make, YouTube has always said, we're making and paying billions of dollars to you labels. You need to go for the labels and ask, why aren't you paying more to the artist, the music publisher itself? And you see now, the proof is in the pudding. Now in the wash, you see that record labels make this $3.82 for every dollar that a music publisher.
Well, because, you know, they take into account if they do the marketing, if they do all that stuff that comes
funny you should say that, because you are acting like we are in the 80s and 90s of record labels that function much in that way. I argue now that record labels have completely converted to service firms. They're service organizations now and conduits for huge live tour outfits like Live Nation.
And that's where that money goes to.
That's my observation and a sort of
Because
educated opinion about
those
that.
people have to be the ticket masters, the people who do the booking, all of that stuff comes from that bulk of money.
Right.
So,
And now I argue that the artist is given the more of the share of marketing and promotions anyway by virtue of social media. You're now compelled to vlog more, video blog, post and share, all in a way to promote your project, right? But the label used to be handling the lion's share of all of those exercises. But now they're saying the artist should do that. So
and they do with branding houses and all of that type of stuff. So, you know, the
that's part of where we're at.
and the Beyoncés and all, they have these big marketing firms that are behind them that push. Anything you see now that is of any major out there in the public's eyes because they have a major marketing component behind it.
I agree. I think this is where it's at. And so back to your point about how we, the music publisher, should get more like 50% from Spotify. You can see now that has more validity, that argument, because the record label isn't doing all of that job that they were doing once upon a time. And now some of that has been transferred or converted to us, meaning that we are responsible for marketing and promotions. Let's take another break. When we come back, I want to talk exclusively to Mr. Nicholas right here about his Do You Want to Dance LP and some feedback and some plans for the year. And perhaps if you're an artist, you could take some notes. All right? Come back with us.
91.6 FM, the heartbeat of Sedan. BYMusicRadio.com.
Come back. Mixtape Sessions is proud to present singer, songwriter, actor, and Mixtape Sessions recording artist Jacqueline Graham. Produced by DJ and label head Adam Cruz, the Jacqueline plea includes Inside My Head and You Showed Me Your Love. Check out Jacqueline Graham and the Jacqueline EP, available to stream everywhere now. Mixtape Sessions, music for the people.
Freedom Radio Hour
And we're back live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM and on the web at dwildmusicradio.com. You're deep in the zone right here on the Freedom Radio Hour. We're your number one source for music business news and trends from around the globe. I'm sitting here with my fantastic partner,
Eddie Nicholas. What up, beautiful people, and welcome back. We're so glad that you're sticking with us and trying to find out and learn and hear what's going on.
I love that. Well, what's going on is you, Mr. Nicholas.
Me.
Yes.
Moi.
Because now you have officially debuted your Do You Want to Dance LP. For those that have not heard it, it is available at eddienicholas.com. It is currently available on tracksource.com. So if you search out Eddie Nicholas, you can find him there or directly at his website. But also, in honor of Mixtape Sessions, that's the record label that is partnering with Eddie to release the album. That record label is turning 10 years old on February 28th. And so in honor of that celebration, part of it will be dedicated to Eddie and his Do You Want to Dance LP, because it will be available everywhere. And that means
worldwide.
iTunes. Yes, worldwide.
Worldwide.
So iTunes and Spotify and Tidal and Apple and all those outfits that we all talk about. His new album will be available to stream on all of those streaming outfits. So I want to say how proud I am of you.
Oh.
And this project, because I know it's been a labor of love.
Yes.
And it's taken a long time. And with the short time that we have with this segment, I do want to focus, though, on the music business aspects of the album. So you're an artist. You've been releasing material for a long time on various labels. Now you have this collection. How does that differ in the way you approach promotions than, say, one song? What did you think how did you undertake an album promotion versus, say, one song?
Well, it's all in the same, because when you do a project, it's all about how you go about promoting the project. Thank goodness for people such as you.
Oh, thanks.
The acumen of surrounding yourself with individuals that know the craft and that are willing to teach you the craft in itself helps make you a better person in understanding what you have to do. You're reaching out, of course, via all my social media platforms, blog pages, Facebook pages, Twitter, all of that type of stuff.
What's been working out? What did you feel? This is really working.
Well, what I have found out is that I get a lot of good response back on Instagram, as well as Facebook. Facebook, more direct responses, and I'm able to share any of the comments or any of the videos that have been shared of any of the works that I've done.
And in some cases, you have the desire to send an advanced copy of your album to certain tastemakers. How did you approach that process?
Oh, that approach basically went through garnering a list. That again, with the help of other individuals, I was able to send out, I think, more than over 50 something jocks, DJs, radio stations, producers, to be able to at least take a listen. The approach this time, as opposed to doing a single, was that this was 16 tracks. And in doing 16 tracks, I really had the opportunity to go back and look over a history of work that I have done. But a lot of people still don't know that I've been singing since 1994. And my first pieces were done with groups like 95 North, Philip Ramirez, and Mijan. So I did a lot of background work on all of that. And just out of that, my first track was You Make Me Carry On, Strictly Rhythm Records, Gladys Pizarro. So out of that, people were saying, Eddie, you do this, you do that. So I was able to look back, starting from that point, and look at all the things that I've done. In regards to the release of the album, it includes a lot of original pieces, a lot of demos that Adam and I wrote. Yes, this is my co-writer, so I have to give this man props, because the backgrounds on many of those songs we set and we created just from listening to see how our voices could mesh. So, I give you mad props to that.
Thank you.
As well as a lot of others, Dawn Tallman, Kim Beecham, Tanja Dixon, Glenn Thornton, Rashmir Mantree. The list goes on and on and on. Willie Labisi, Ian the Clown Dallas, Jeremiah Santiago, Ace Mungeon, Sterling Void, Stephen Flatfly Farley, Rob who?
Denoise.
Rob Denoise Temple, thank you. So the list goes on and on and on, and to have the opportunity and to have people believe in things that you do.
So yeah, I think one of the biggest takeaways from this though is your strategy now. You have this project, you've been wanting to release it. It's out. It's going to have a wider release, and we do in this process. It's called windowing. That means you take and put it on EddieNicholas.com first, then TrackSource second after a few weeks, and then after a few weeks after that, this wider release. Windowing, right? As possible approach for you in your next release. But beyond that, what are some of the other strategies you're considering for the next few months and into the year?
Oh, definitely live performances. I have some performances coming up at Ash Lounge and, of course, Humble Beginnings, so you can catch me there.
Then you do the summer thing.
I was going to say the season is coming up with the hosting. So, April, Zumba. So a whole bunch of things are coming up. So it's just a matter of spreading those things out and attacking them and going with gusto.
And I also
I can't do.
I know that we're almost out of time here, but I had to mention one more very important detail. I think one of your many gifts is your ability to continue creating, remaining this versatile artist, but also your gift is that you're able to do several different kinds of work that together create a portfolio for you to enjoy your life. It includes hosting, working with senior citizens, giving back to the community, working with children, after-school programs, working with other artists, working to host various functions, working to provide catering affairs. If you were to ask to cook, you can make a mean setup.
Do it all.
Yes, and you are a person that does it all. Do you still believe in the approach of doing all of these different things to then make that the portfolio of your life? Do you still think that's working for you?
Well, it has to. I'm a survivor. I'm still here. Now, the key is how do you turn all of that into a flow, a cash flow?
Sure.
Because again, you can live from day to day, but it still takes.
You don't want to survive. You want to also thrive.
You want to thrive.
Yeah.
And, how do you make those things thrive? So by combining all of those things, it's about that BRAND.
Brand.
What comes underneath your brain.
It's true. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Make it your business to check out EddieNicholas.com for the Do You Want to Dance LP. Check out DJAdamCruz.com for more of my fantastic music. And also leave a comment under everything we're posting at FreedomRadioHour.com, our website. And also download our free app for Android and iTunes users. Check us out at the App Store and within Google Play. Just search us out, Freedom Radio Hour. Have a great weekend and a great week ahead. See you next time.
91.6 FM, DWildMusicRadio.com, FreedomRadioHour.com. Check us out.
All right. So proud of you.